Hey guys, as you know, we've been testing and off-roading cars for about 10 years now. And in that entire time, we have not had a TFL off-roadiness score. Well, that's about to change because today we're going to introduce a way to measure how good a vehicle is off-road. And we've created a scale that starts at 0, being, well, pretty much a NASCAR with slicks, to the perfect off-roader. And this scale, keep in mind, only applies to factory cars and trucks, not lifted Jeeps, but stuff you can get from the factory. And so behind me, you will see 3 vehicles that will help explain how we're scoring the TFL off-roadiness score. So let me hand it over to my colleagues to explain and start with the very first vehicle, the Honda Passport.
Well, that is the new 2019 Honda Passport. And we have to talk about its off-roadiness, but it's like a winter wonderland here in Maine, Colorado. So let's go back to the studio so we can go over some numbers.
The TFL off-road score is based on a percentage. So let me explain by demonstrating on the whiteboard. 0% is a NASCAR with slicks. Can't make it over a speed bump. 100% is the perfect off-roader. So it's really based on scoring the kinds of features that each vehicle has. If you get to 30%, or a score of 30, you're probably at the ability to conquer Gold Mine Hill. At 50%, the vehicle becomes dirt worthy. And what we mean by dirt worthy isn't you can take it to your cabin on a dirt road. It means you can do fins and things, which is one of our classic Moab off-road trails. In other words, you could take the vehicle through mud, over fields, ford some streams. That is the 50% or 50 score on our off-roadiness scale. And of course, 70 is Moab's Hell Revenge. This is a serious off-roader that can take on most anything. And if you get up here to 99%, then you're basically at the Rubicon Trail. You can actually take that trail on from the factory. So how are we scoring it?
Now let's look at what that criteria is. First of all, at the baseline, your off-road vehicle is gonna need all-wheel drive. If it's got all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, it gets an automatic 20%, be it selectable or real-time. Now next up, the next range is a transfer case with a low range. That's an additional 20%. And if the vehicle doesn't have a transfer case, but it does have an off-road mode, it scores 5% in that category. Now a vehicle equipped out of the box with all-terrain or mud-terrain tires gets an additional 10%, and it's kind of rare to find on stock vehicles. Next up is ground clearance. If you have greater than or equal to 9 inches of ground clearance, you get an additional 5%. However, if you don't have 9 inches but you do have air suspension that lifts you over 9 inches, that's also 5%. Diff locks is up to 15%, so 5% front, 5% middle, and 5% rear. Then we've got armor, so skid plates, underbody protection, 3% for stuff that covers the vital front end components, 3% that covers the middle, the transfer case, the transmission, and then 3% for the rear, that's something like the fuel tank. And then of course, approach, departure, breakover angle, that's of course is important when you're off-road. Approach, departure, and breakover is equal to 5% each or up to 15%, and that minimum threshold is 25 for both approach, departure, and breakover. And finally, this is where we get a little bit advanced, a little bit modern, cameras. We're talking front cameras, off-road trail cams, up to 5%. So you add all this up and a perfect score out of the box from the factory would be a 99%.
Now there are 2 caveats that are very important to the TFL off-roadiness score, and that is, number 1, these are for stock vehicles from the factory. If you're lifting them, if you're putting on different tires, then this score does not apply to you or your vehicle. And number 2, we have left some room for our opinion, and that is exactly 1%. Why only 1%? Well, we'll tell you at the end of this video. Tommy, tell them what the Passport scores.
Now the Passport, of course, is not marketed as a full-on rock crawler, but it certainly has some capability that we'll see in this list. So of course it has all-wheel drive, so that's an automatic 20%, 20 points. However, it doesn't have a low-range transfer case, but it does have an off-road mode. So in place of the transfer case, we've got an additional 5 points. No all-terrain tires from the factory, so it scores nothing there. It's got 8.1 inches of ground clearance, which is less than 9, so no points there. It's got no diff locks, so no points there. It also has no armor underneath that's substantial. You know, it doesn't have skid plates, just plastic shielding, so no points there. Now let's talk about some of the the angles. The approach angle is 21.7, the departure is 27.7, and the breakover is 17.3. Only one of those is over 25, so it's got 5 points in the angles category, and then it doesn't have any front-facing off-roady cameras for when you're out on the trail. So all in all, the Honda Passport out of the box scores a 30% total. Now 30% may seem pretty low, but keep in mind that's still good enough to get you where you need to go off-road. That still is enough to have some fun, at least getting you to the trailhead.
With a score of 30, the Passport ranks at Gold Mine Hill level. Now keep in mind that next is 50% or dirt worthy fins and things level. Now this is not being able to drive your car to the cabin on a dirt road over the weekend. At 50%, this is a vehicle that can be used as an overlander. Basically take your vehicle around the world, perhaps not do some heavy off-roading, but certainly an overlanding qualified vehicle. So let's see how the F-150 scores.
Oh, cars, schmars, off-roading and trucks go together like hot dogs and mustard. And the score also applies to trucks. Behind me is the new 2019 Ford F-150 FX4, which is an off-road package. Well, let's go to the studio and find out exactly how it scores.
Why are you putting mustard on a hot dog?
Well, because it's good.
No, it isn't good. It's awful. It's ketchup on a hot dog.
Mustard. Now let's take a look at this F-150 crew cab with a short bed. And the important note, it's an FX4 package, so Ford from the factory adds a couple of things to the truck to make it more off-road worthy. It has four-wheel drive, automatic 20% or 20 points. Transfer case with low range is there, boom, another 20%. Unfortunately, no real all-terrain tire. It's more of an all-season tire for the road. I wish Ford would address this, but let's move on. Less than 9 inches of ground clearance, so we're not scoring anything on the ground clearance either. It has a transfer case and a rear locker, so it scores 10% right there in this category. Finally, skid plates. FX4 gives you a little bit more protection underneath, so 9% or 9 points here because it has front, center, and rear skid plates underneath. How about approach, departure, and breakover angles? Well, it has pretty good approach angle if you remove that chin spoiler, but the departure angle is really good at 26. Breakover not so good because it's a long truck, long wheelbase. So 10 points there. Finally, it only has a reverse rear camera. It's not a full-on Raptor, so it does not have all the high-tech features that you would expect. But finally, it's 69 points right there. So it could do fins and things, and it could take you many, many places off-road.
So the F-150 scores a 69, which puts it just below the ability to tackle Moab Hell's Revenge Trail, and that's about right. Of course, trucks are big and they're ungainly, so sometimes they do suffer off-road. However, they do have all the off-road goodies in general to do well off-road. So in this three-vehicle comparison, the truck does really well, but does it do as well as the G-Wagon? Well, let's find out right now. So the G-Class does have four-wheel drive. Of course, that gives it 20 points. It does have a low transfer case, but surprisingly, it doesn't have all-terrain tires. It comes with Scorpions, which are basically the same tire that Volvo puts on their cross-country. A good all-season tire, but certainly not an off-road tire. It does have 9.5 inches of ground clearance. That gives it 5 points, and you'll know this, it has a front, center, and a rear locking diff, which gives it the maximum of 15 points. Now it does have a front and center skid plate. The gas tank is not protected, so it only gets 6 points. Now let's talk about the approach, departure, and breakover angle. 30, 29, 23. So on our scale of 25 being a minimum, 25 degrees, it gets 10. No front-facing camera. And by the way, if the camera is available and not on our vehicle, then we score the vehicle and not what option is available. So this particular vehicle scores a 76% of the grand total of 99, making it by far, well, by at least a significant amount, the most off-road capable vehicle out of the three that we've rated today. And one last caveat in this video, while we do score these vehicles, this does not mean that the vehicles won't be damaged doing things like Hell's Revenge. So yes, they can do it, but can they do it without getting trail damage? Probably not. The highest highest that a vehicle on our scale can reach is 99%, at least following the objective criteria. So why are we only using 1 point for our subjective? Well, we better go back outside to answer that question. So guys, does our opinion matter, Tommy?
What? No.
No. We have left a certain percentage for the subjective part of this TFL off-roadiness score. What percentage is that, Tommy?
1%.
Andre, why is it 1%?
Well, it's not just because our opinion doesn't matter, but off-road conditions change minute by minute, as you can see right now. So we wanted to keep it objective and just leave a little bit of room for our opinion.
Yeah, so this is a really objective way to look at off-road vehicles that we think is completely fair and gives you a way to rate just how off-road worthy, all right, off-roadiness a vehicle has. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and check out TFL Car and TFL Truck. Can you guys believe it's May?
And TFL Off-Road!
More news, views, and of course, real-world reviews. And we will be applying this scale to all the vehicles that we'll be testing from now on.
You have some snow in your nose, but
Yeah, I know. All right. Good thing we're doing this in the studio.